Let me tell you a tale of two Americans living in 2026. On the left side, meet Sarah. She lives in a trendy inner-city apartment in downtown Chicago. She pays $3,200 a month for 600 square feet. She feels modern. She feels connected. On the right side, meet Mike. Mike did what his parents told him to do. He moved out to the suburbs, maybe outside of Austin or Orlando. He bought the big house with the two-car garage. He feels like he achieved the American dream. Now, here is the plot twist. Both Sarah and Mike are broke. They are both drowning, and they are both secretly jealous of each other. Sarah looks at Mike's house and thinks, if I just moved to the suburbs, I could build equity and stop burning money on rent. Mike looks at Sarah's city life and thinks, if I just lived in the city, I would not spend 2 hours a day in traffic. In this video, we are going to perform a forensic financial autopsy on these two lifestyles. We are going to expose the inner-city poverty trap, where inflation keeps you a permanent serf, and we are going to dismantle the suburban dream, which is mutated into a debt prison of exploding insurance rates and hidden car taxes. We're going to run the real math to show you that the old advice of drive until you qualify is dead. Let's find out which trap is worse. Let's start with the inner city trap. In 2026, the narrative for city living is convenience, but let's look at the numbers. The average rent for a luxury apartment in a major metro has hit $3,400 a month. Sarah makes $100,000 a year. After taxes, she takes home about $6,000 a month. That means over 50% of her net income goes to her landlord before she buys a single grocery item. This is the definition of being house poor, except she doesn't even get the house. She gets a receipt. The trap here is the amenity illusion. Apartments are 20% smaller than they were in 2010. To compensate, developers offer common areas like a rooftop lounge. You are paying premium rent for square footage you share with strangers. Every year, her rent goes up by 5%, but her salary goes up by 3%. Mathematically, she is getting poorer every single lease renewal. Now let's fly to the Sun Belt to look at Mike in the suburbs. This is where the suburban Ponzi scheme is unraveling. Mike bought his house for $450,000. His mortgage payment is roughly $3,200, the same as Sarah's rent. On paper, Mike is winning because he is building equity. But let's look at the unrecoverable costs. First, the commuter tax. Mike lives 25 miles from his job. He drives a generic SUV. Between gas, insurance, tires, and depreciation, it costs 67 cents per mile to drive. If he drives 50 miles a day, that is $700 a month just to leave his house. But the real killer in the suburbs in 2026 is hidden housing inflation. In states like Texas and Florida, property taxes and insurance have exploded. In Florida, the average home insurance premium is now over $6,000 a year. Mike is paying $1,300 a month just in taxes and insurance. That is money that does not build equity. That is rent he pays to the government in the insurance company. When you add the $700 commuting cost and the $1,300 tax and insurance cost, Mike is burning $2,000 a month on phantom costs. He thinks he's investing, but he's mostly just sustaining a lifestyle that requires expensive maintenance. Let's do a direct head-to-head comparison. A condo in downtown Seattle versus a house in a suburb like Tacoma. The condo costs $600,000. The house costs $500,000. The house looks $100,000 cheaper. This is the bait. But the suburban house requires 2 cars. The city condo requires 0 cars. A 2-car household in 2026 spends an average of $22,000 a year on transportation. Over 30 years, if you invested that car money instead, it would be worth nearly $2 million. The suburban discount is a lie. You are saving $100,000 on the mortgage to spend $2 million on cars over your lifetime. And then there is the time tax. This is the variable nobody puts on a spreadsheet. Sarah in the city spends 30 minutes a day commuting. Mike in the suburbs spends 2 hours. That is 500 hours a year. That is 20 full days of his life every single year sitting in a box, staring at brake lights. If Mike values his time at $50 an hour, he is losing $25,000 a year in unpaid time. When you factor in the time cost, the suburban house is actually far more expensive than the city apartment. The suburbs were designed for a world where gas was cheap and traffic was light. Neither of those things are true today. But the city has its own dark side. It's the wealth extraction model. If Sarah buys a condo, she gets hit with HOA fees. In cities like Miami, these fees have skyrocketed to $1,200 a month because of aging buildings. Imagine paying off your mortgage, but you still have to pay $1,200 a month forever just to keep the lights on in the lobby. That is not ownership. That is feudalism. You are a tenant in your own property.
So, who wins? The truth is, in the current market, they are both losing. The winner is the person who opts out of this binary choice. The winner is the person who understands the third path. This might look like house hacking in a transition zone, buying a multifamily property on the edge of the city where you can still use public transit but have a tenant pay your mortgage, or it looks like remote work arbitrage. If you can work from home, the suburban equation changes completely because you delete the commuter tax and the time tax. Suddenly, the house in the middle of nowhere becomes a sanctuary, not a prison. Here is the verdict for 2026. If you move to the suburbs strictly to save money, you will likely fail. The hidden costs of transportation and taxes will eat up any savings. You will just be broke in a bigger house. If you stay in the city and rent forever, you will also fail because you're at the mercy of a landlord. The only way to win is to run your own personal inflation rate calculation. Open a spreadsheet. Column A is the city, rent plus higher food costs. Column B is the suburb, mortgage plus tax plus insurance plus gas plus car payments. Be honest. When you run these numbers side by side, you might find that the expensive city apartment is actually cheaper cash flow-wise than the affordable house, or you might find the opposite. But you have to do the math. Stop chasing the American dream from 1990. That dream is dead. Chase the mathematical reality of 2026. Pick the struggle that mathematically allows you to save 30% of your income. That is the only housing dream that matters. If this video helped you see through the real estate lies, hit that like button and subscribe. I will see you in the next one.